You're listening to the Actors Resource Podcast with Aaliyah Lay, a podcast for actors and improvisers with interviews from entertainment industry experts.
We are so lucky to have Joseph Mallozzi, who is a writer, showrunner, and producer with over 20 years of experience in the TV industry and 400 plus hours of produced television to his credit, being our guest today. I'm just going to name drop a couple of his shows, currently show running for Utopia Falls on Netflix, and also executive producer for Stargate, like SG1. So anyways, thank you, Joseph, for being here.
Thank you. Sadly, no longer producer for Utopia Falls. It did one season and done in, we premiered in 2020. Sadly, we did not get a second season, or else I haven't heard about a second season yet. So, yeah, Stargate and another show called Dark Matter, which was my show on Netflix for 3 years.
Wow, Dark Matter too. Oh my God, that is amazing. Well, as when you were show running for Utopia, and I'm sorry it didn't get picked up for a second season, but still, I mean,
It happens, yeah.
I mean, Joe, just what you've accomplished is so phenomenal. I mean, I don't know if you feel that way, but I feel that everything you've accomplished so far is phenomenal, and that there's going to be more. Just real quick, if you wouldn't mind sharing your success story. Where did you get started? What were the challenges you faced?
The challenges were the same challenges that anyone would face getting into this business is, getting your foot in the door. And the standard practice is you write a pilot, you write a spec feature, and you go out and try to get an agent. And rather than do that, actually, I went in through, I guess I would call it a side door, which is animation. And, I started it for, kind of animation shorts, and then worked my way up, and then made the transition from animation to live action teen sitcom, and then 1 hour drama, and then ultimately landed on Stargate. That's why I often tell writers, if you're looking to break into the industry, you might want to look at animation because they tend to be more accepting of new writers. And it allows you to hone your craft, allows you to get paid, and then allows you, hopefully, when the time is right, if the opportunity arises, to make that transition or that step up into live action.
Okay. Oh my God, that's so great. So you first started in animation, writing animation.
Yeah, and writing for animation, and then ultimately story editing animation, developing animation, and at the point where I transitioned to live action, actually I was doing so well in animation that I actually had to take a pay cut to actually, take the new job in live action. But it was the right career move for me. I think I needed to make that move. So as much as I still love animation, live action is really my bread and butter.
Mm-hmm. Well, was that your goal all along? Like when you first started, was your goal to be a showrunner? Or is there more?
No, actually, as a writer, if you don't know anything about the industry, the brass ring is features, and you think you're going to write a movie script and that'll be great. But the reality is it's very tough to make it as a writer. It's even tougher as a feature writer. And even if you do make it as a feature writer, chances are your script will be rewritten. And how could I say this? Features don't afford writers the same respect as television. The feature gig is very, feast or famine. It's a director's game. The directors call the shots. The writers write the script, and then they're either rewritten or, they're paid their nominal sum, and then they're off to the next script. Whereas in television, writers are able to sort of work their way up the ranks, the production ranks, and ultimately assume the role of showrunner and call the shots, be kind of the creative leader of a production, and have your hand in everything from scripts through art design to costumes to casting to editing.
Nice. So how were you able to transition? Was there any kind of, you started writing for animation and then you transitioned into story editor. How did you make that move to transition into story editor? Was it hard? What were some of the steps you made? Because some people never transition into story editor.
Yeah, in my case, I was writing a lot for a company, and then I would, because I was working in-house, I would tend to do rewrites of other writers to the point where they realized internally, why are we paying this showrunner to this other story editor to do the work that Joe's doing? Why don't we just pay Joe? And so I was offered the opportunity to story edit. And so that was my first story editing opportunity. You just make yourself available, you prove yourself. And just by proving myself as a story editor, they liked what I was doing, and they offered me the opportunity to develop for them. And so I developed for them. And then, like I said, we made that transition to the live action teen sitcom. Our agent called and said, there's a show that's looking for writers. And we had written a sample script and we sent it in, and they liked the script. And of course, a lot of it has to do with personality. If you're difficult or unpleasant, no one's going to want to spend like 8 hours, 9 hours, 10, 12 hours a day of production with you. So when you go in to a meeting, don't be crazy is my advice. And that's it. That's how I landed on a live action teen sitcom called Student Bodies. And we did that for many years. And then we landed on Stargate in much the same way. You just, you deliver a good script, because actually that's first and foremost what they care about. And then B, you prove that you are an asset and you're good to work with. You're a positive force in, let's say, the writer's room or on the production. And that's how we ended up landing on Stargate. By we, I refer to my former writing partner and I.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as you rised in the ranks, risen, did you always have like a job, or were you freelancing the whole time?
At the beginning, I was freelancing, and then I landed a job as a development executive. That's when I did most of my story editing. Mm-hmm. And then I ended up leaving the security of this 9-to-5 job for freelancing, really. And I remember my parents, who were very traditional Italian, were mortified that I would leave a secure job. But in reality, no job is really secure. And it was a right choice for my career. I ended up on Student Bodies. And then from Student Bodies, we did another show called A Big Wolf on Campus. And then immediately after that, we landed on Stargate, which was supposed to be a 2-year gig. And we ended up, the franchise kept on going for like another, it was like we were there for like 12 years on the show.
Yeah. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And you stayed there for 12 years, and then Utopia Falls happened. How did you make Utopia?
Well, actually, no. We finished Stargate, then we landed on a terrible production that I won't even mention. That was very frustrating. Oh, no. And then following that, I developed my own show, Dark Matter, and I show ran that for Netflix for 3 years. And then I developed for a year, and then we ended up on Utopia Falls, which was, it was not a show I created. It was a show created by R.T. Thorne, who's a very talented music director who has kind of made the move into sort of television, being very successful in that regard. And he asked me to show run, and I like R.T. a lot. And so based on that pre-existing relationship, I ended up stepping on board, bringing my old Dark Matter crew onto the production, and we produced the first season of Utopia Falls, and sort of that delivered, I think, early 2020. And then since then, I've just kind of been in developing various projects.
Right now you're in development projects right now. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. When you were show running for Dark Matter, and you actually developed that, how did that go? Like, how did that transition go from you producing, but now you're show running? Now you're in charge of everything.
Well,
how did you do that?
We were actually showrunners for the last 2 seasons of Atlantis. My former writing partner and I, Brad and Robert, ended up stepping away, and we took over. So that's how I want to say even learn the ropes, because one of the great things about working on Stargate, and Brad and Robert were very open to allowing everyone to sort of learn and grow within the production. So we started off as co-producers in the room, just simple as writers, but as sort of time went on, we were invited into the various meetings. So we learned everything from concept meetings. We sat in on concept meetings, production meetings, all the art department meetings. We sat in on editing, and we learned how to show run. And then ultimately we were allowed to run our own shows. And then eventually Brad and Robert decided to step away, and they handed the reins to Paul and I, Paul, my former writing partner. And we're showrunners the last 2 seasons of Atlantis. We were co-showrunners of the last season of Universe with Brad Wright, and then co-created Dark Matter. And my former writing partner decided he didn't want to move to Toronto to shoot the series. So it was my first solo show running gig. And so, that was like 3 years. And I mean, and that was it. It was kind of a slow progression. A lot of it had to do with the having the right people supporting you. Like Brad and Robert, the former showrunners of Stargate, were very good, as I said, about promoting from within and supporting from within.
Yeah, I love that so much that so it wasn't like you got thrown into it. You actually had mentorship, actually, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Collaborative, supportive mentorship.
Yeah, and it's not always the case in this industry. Often people are too busy or not interested, but Brad and Robert were always very good about that on Stargate.
That's wonderful. That's so great. And now that you are currently in development, and what is your next big goal now? Like, I know you're developing, so do you want to develop another series so you can control the project, or do you want to go into features, actually?
No, I have no interest in features. Like,
you're like, done. I'm done with that.
I didn't even begun, so I'm not even interested. No. I'm very happy in television. Yeah, ideally, I would like to land a new series. I mean, which one? I don't know. I've got about 10 different projects in the works. So I just found from experience is always the one you least expect. So we'll see. And it will be nice. I mean, one of the things I'm also pitching is a Dark Matter mini series to kind of cap off that series, because Sci-Fi canceled us without an ending. So it would be nice to offer fans an ending to that series as well.
Yes, definitely. As a audience member, when I've watched shows, they left me hanging. It's like, please wrap up the ends. Please let me know what happens. Yeah, totally. Okay, cool. Last question is, thank you so much for sharing your 20 plus years of expertise and how you got started and how you moved up, and how it's important to be able to be professional as well as stepping in, but also being able to be someone you can work well with. I mean, those were great advice and information. Is there any last words you'd like to share with people on how to be successful? I mean, yours is a huge success story. Is there anything you'd like to add?
My advice is first and foremost, be good, be easy to work with, and be lucky. Because I mean, a lot of it is luck in this industry. But I mean, I think you make your own luck, and one of the ways you make your own luck is by networking, by get on Twitter and follow writers, make connections that way. Go to industry functions, and just make those connections, because those connections will pay off down the line.
And how do you recommend continuing a networking connection? So say, for instance, you and I, we're just meeting now. How would we continue our relationship in an authentic way, or even a networking event? You meet someone who's a writer, or
you follow up with email. I mean, I find I'm always kind of amazed when some industry people are not on Twitter, just because I realize it's very annoying. But it's the easiest way to interact with other professionals, and it gets you on their radar. And I mean, to be honest with you, the emails are fine. They're just kind of like, sometimes, you're overwhelmed with emails and they get kind of lost. Whereas basically with Twitter, you're always on, someone's radar. Whether you're commenting and engaging with them. I think it's, outside of actually meeting people at a face-to-face function, which, because of the pandemic, has become a little more difficult now. I think online connecting, specifically Twitter, is the best way to go.
Nice. Great. Thank you so much, Joe.
You're welcome.
And best of luck to you for your current developments. I'm looking forward to seeing a new show of yours come out. I don't know if you like a specific genre or not.
Yeah, we'll see. Who knows? Who knows what the future holds? Yes. But thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
And thank you for listening to the Actors Resource Podcast with me, Aaliyah Lay. I would love to hear from you, so email me, AliyahKLay@gmail.com. ALYAKLEI at gmail.com.